All right, let's do this. Okay, so we are going to share some information today about psychology management. And it's one of the most important topics that we ever cover when it comes to high performance coaching, simply because you and I both know that when it comes to psychology management and emotional regulation, it's one of the most important things that we could possibly ever do. So when we think about it, if we go back to uh, all the way back to James Allen, right? Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and of strength and peace. So when we start thinking about the tenets of psychology, how can you use the power of your mind to support and strengthen who you really are, right? Who are you? And then these three actions aim your mind and provide the fertile ground for developing a more engaged and consciously directed mind. So, what does that even mean? When we start looking at what that consists of, it's like focus and live from our strengths more. So often we've been told forever, oh, hey, whatever your weakness is, let's figure out what your weakness is and strengthen that. Hell with that. How about we strengthen our strengths? Focus on what we're good at and get great at it, and then delegate or hire out everything else, right? That makes more sense. Play where we feel big, and where we're super small, it's like, no way, let's pass that off to somebody else where it matters, right? Let's pass some of that stuff off to somebody who can do it better than we can. Richard Branson was asked, well, what's your secret to success? Man, it's finding and surrounding yourself with brilliant people, and then giving them the direction of what you want done, and then leaving them alone to get it done, right? Find brilliant people to do things that you couldn't dream of doing outside of you're bringing them in to fulfill this vision that you have, but you may not have any idea of how to complete it. That's why you're bringing in geniuses to help you figure it out, and you figure out how to do it together, right? That's the concept. But if we focus more on our top 5 strengths and help to grow those strengths, man, we're going to be so much better. Absolutely so much better than we would be if we focused on the negative things, or if we focused on our weakness. Forget that. Uh, so if you lived from your top strengths more often with greater focus, what things would change in your life? Because when we start thinking about, well, what is it? What needs to change? What could change? What should change in my life if I focused on my strengths? How much more confident would we show up? How much more competent would we show up in conversation, for our families, in business? And then the other side of things would be the way I'm going to remind myself of my strengths and live from them more often. So I have some strengths that I remind myself of, because they're also the things that I'm improving, that I'm intentionally growing. I've got them on my wall right here, where I look at them every single day. Confident, competent, charismatic. Why? Because those three things matter when I'm on camera, when I'm speaking from the stage, when I'm working with clients. Confident, competent, charismatic has to be part of it. So I have to continue to develop in those areas or forget it, right? Interactions with others. I've got to be present, show some grace, and I've got to be genuinely curious about people. Again, three things that I'm okay at, but they're strengths that I'm growing. I've got to be exceptional at them. I can't just be good at them. I have to be exceptional at them. And then success markers: productivity, persuasive, and persistent. Those three things have to be. There's no question about it. Those are three traits that have to be developed into something that is absolutely exceptional, not just okay, not just good, because good is the enemy of great, right? We know this. It's not like the first time, it's not our first rodeo. So we want to use the power of questions to direct our mind. Now think about this for a second. If the brain is pliable, and it's like plastic, and they call it neuroplasticity, right? Where we rewire the brain with every thought and every word. We are constantly rewiring the brain. Everything we do rewires, wires, and rewires the brain. So why have we been allowing everyone else to wire and rewire our brain instead of intentionally doing it ourselves. So if we will take control of the mind and we will ask ourselves pointed questions, and we will ask questions that will help to focus the mind, we're going to get a better result because we're in control. When you wake up in the morning and you pray, what are you praying for? Like, what are we doing? Are you setting a positive intention for the day? Are you walking through and visualizing as well the action steps that you're going to take for the day? Or, are you referring back to your 3 most important questions, right? Are we going back to, well, shoot, what experiences do I want to experience? And how am I going to have to grow in order to have those experiences? And what do I want to leave as a legacy? Well, if I'm considering those things as I'm going into the day, and I now know what my day looks like, well, now we're intentionally designing the day, and we can ask ourselves questions to direct our mind to do those things, right? So some of the questions that I think are brilliant when it comes to directing the mind, let's say first thing in the morning, is I'm pulling this out of my high performance planner, written by Brendan Richard. You can get them on Amazon or Hay House. But one thing that I can get excited about today, man, that's great because it directs the mind. One thing I can get excited about today is coming on here and doing this. Or one thing I can get excited about today is writing for 1 hour from 4 a.m. to 5 a.m. every morning. I can get excited about doing that this morning, right? So one word that could describe the kind of person I want to be today, then that word is what and why I chose it. So you understand where I'm going with this. So if we start selecting better questions to direct our mind, what feelings do I want to generate in my spouse today? What feelings do I want to generate in my children today? Oh, I have these scheduled appointments. Great. How do I want each of these to go today? See where I'm going with this? Again, we want to positively direct the mind. So what I would have you do is sit down and go, okay, you know what? Here's 5 questions that I could ask myself every single morning that would help direct my mind in the right direction. Like, who needs more compassion from me today? Is there somebody in my life that needs more compassion? What about gratitude? Who could I express a little gratitude to today? How could I show a little more gratitude in what I do today? Ooh, who could I forgive today? What about that? That's pretty powerful, right? Who can I forgive today? Oh, well, also, what are my future dreams? What are my future dreams? And what step can I take today to make those dreams come closer, right? Because, we've got these 10-year dreams, 20-year dreams, 30-year dreams out there. Well, how do we bring them in closer? We bring them in closer by going, oh, okay, well, what's my 90-day dream? Oh, okay, so what's my 30-day? Fantastic. What do I have to have done this week? Okay, what do I have to have done today? So I have the week's goal finished, and I've got the month goal finished, and I've got the quarter finished, and see where I'm going with this? It all comes down to right here in front of us. What does the perfect day look like? So now we've looked at our future dreams, we looked at the perfect day, and then have we projected faith? And we're going to talk about all these in a little more detail here coming up. But again, have we projected the positive energy of faith into the future and visualized ourselves achieving the thing already and bringing that energy back, creating anticipation in the heart, which moves the hands. Remember, anticipation moves the hands. However, what does anxiety do? Freezes you like a freaking statue, right? So what we want to do is move the hands. So what kind of question can we ask ourselves that will allow us to project that positive future event having been completed, right? So again, when we think about this, we have what's called the control of our R.W.I.D, our relative weight of importance and duration. So any thought that enters the mind, we get to control what thoughts we dwell on and how long we dwell on those thoughts. And some of y'all woke up this morning, you're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be one of those days. And guess what? It's now the end of the day, and you had one of those days. And you cannot wait to climb into bed. You can't wait to kick on the Netflix. You cannot wait to wind down because today was freaking ridiculous. Some of you had that day and you created it yourself when you rolled out of bed because either your alarm didn't go off or you kicked the wall or the dog bit, whatever it was, you decided, man, it's going to be one of those days. And here's what the brain does. When you wake up and you say that to yourself, the brain starts going through its memory banks and it starts creating this loop. And what it ends up doing is it starts finding all the supporting material from everything that's ever happened to you in your life. And it keeps going through this brain in this loop, and it picks up more and 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 more. And you'll notice that as your day goes on, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until the end of the day comes and you've had the worst freaking day of your life. And you can look yourself in the mirror and go, hey, thanks, you did that. So what would happen if you got out of bed and you set a positive intention for the day? Man, today's going to be a great day. Are you kidding me? Today's going to be so cool. This is going to be the best day of my life so far. And then you go through your 6-point meditation of your compassion, of your gratitude, of your forgiveness, of your future dreams, of the perfect day, and then of a projection of faith into the future. How much different are we set up for success for going through our priming questions versus, oh my God, this day sucks. You are creating your day and you don't even know it. Okay. So let's move on from there. And so when we think about controlling the relative weight and importance and duration of our thoughts, what do we do if we have some of those thoughts that are just overpowering, that are really super negative and overpowering? We're going to talk about some of those things here as we go through this conversation. But one of those things that we can do differently is, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the stream of conscious writing, but if you really struggle, there's a book called The Artist's Way. And in that book, I have it here somewhere. Oh, there it is right there, actually. So by Julia Cameron, right? Julia Cameron. So I was on a coaching call, and my coach, Miss Marley Jacks, was like, hey, by the way, if you haven't read this book, it's amazing. You need to get it. So I went out, on Amazon, and I bought The Artist's Way, and I put it on my shelf like I do all my books. And it sat there. And then I pulled Tim Ferriss's book off the counter, and I'm like, okay, let's read this, Tools of the Titans. And in his introduction to his book, he says, look, if you don't get anything else out of this book, flip to this page, and I think it was page 200 or something like that. And he's like, this one thing has transformed my life. This one activity transformed my life, and it's called The Morning Pages. And so I'm like, well, shoot, I think I have that book somewhere. So I pulled it off the shelf, and I went through the whole process. And I will tell you that if you struggle with a lot of negative thoughts, stream of conscious writing, 3 pages every single morning. And here's what I found. I don't know if you'll find the same, but here's what I found. That the first page that I was writing was pretty darn negative. Like super negative thoughts came out in the beginning. And those negative thoughts ended up right in the shredder, right where they belong. But the second third ended up being kind of like, oh, this is kind of what's going on today. And here's my thoughts and here's how I'm feeling and those types of things. But the last page was always ideas, like just ideas coming out of, oh, here's how I can implement this and here's how I can do that. And it became very, very positive. And it's crazy because it was a great way for the brain to dump the negative, to start working through what I'm doing for the day, and then moving into the creative side, moving into creativity. So if you struggle with negative thoughts, The Morning Pages is brilliant. And if you are an entrepreneur and you're a creative, but you've lost your creativity, go through it. Go through the whole book. Read it. Do all the whole program. Take yourself on the artist dates. Anyways, you get the whole processes in there, and I think it would help you tremendously to actually go through all the exercises in the book. It was a lot of fun too. So, I don't know about you, but if you've ever been fired, right? If you've ever been fired, man, my dad was fired, and he had no idea why. He just didn't know why, because the man was more dedicated and worked harder than anybody I've ever seen in my entire life. And one day he just gets fired for no reason. He has no idea. And he is pissed. Not only is he pissed, but he is freaking pissed. and he is telling everybody about it. And the man never stopped. He was so upset and so angry all the time. In fact, if you've ever been to a grocery store and I'm not sure if you've ever been in there and you've seen somebody that you don't really want to talk to, and you got to duck behind the vegetables, or you duck behind an end cap so you don't have to talk to them. Dude, I've noticed, I was in the store with my dad and I noticed people that we knew that would duck and run because they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it for the 10,000th time. They were sick and tired of hearing the negativity and they didn't want to hear it anymore. And it was really difficult. It was difficult for him and it was difficult for us as a family to have to hear it, to have to listen to the negativity all the time. So the question then becomes, if we're experiencing these negative things, have we really looked in the mirror and gone, okay, well, what does this mean? Right? What does it mean that this happened? Okay, no problem. It happened, but why did it happen? Sometimes there's no explanation why it happened, right? Sometimes we don't have any idea. But sometimes, I don't know if you remember the old 45s or the LPs where you would spin it backwards and you would have these hidden satanic messages on them, right? Called it backmasking, right? You call it backmasking, and you can listen to anything backwards and hear something in it, right? But those of you who know, backmasking. Well, are you backmasking much? Like, are you going back and you're watching and replaying this garbage over and over and over and over again in your head because of something negative that happened in the past? So what are we supposed to do with that? Because a lot of times that's the reason we're going through such crazy stuff. And I like to use the analogy of the windshield. The windshield is massive and the rear view mirror is tiny. Why is the rear view mirror so much smaller than that massive screen that we're looking through? Well, it's because we're supposed to look in the rear view mirror for perspective, but we're driving through the front. We're moving forward, eyes forward, eyes front. We're only looking back for perspective. We're looking back for what? What lesson can I learn from this? What can I take away from this? So when I'm also looking in that rear view mirror, a lot of times, what am I seeing? I'm seeing myself in my eyes. Well, what does that mean? What part of me caused this? What is my responsibility in this? What did I do? What could I possibly have done to make this happen? Oh, you mean I have to take personal responsibility? Yeah, you got to take personal responsibility. It's your fault. It was nobody else's fault. You caused it. And even if you didn't, the question is, well, what part of me caused it? Because if I can take some personal responsibility for it, that is the most empowering thing on the planet, because that means I can do something about it. But if I had nothing to do with it, oh, it's out of my hands. Somebody else did that. I can't fix this. I have to wait for somebody to come save me. Ain't nobody coming to save you, ever. Christ came, he did the saving, and guess what? There ain't anybody else coming. So it's time to save yourself. And the only way to do that is to take personal responsibility for whatever happened. And from there, we get to move forward. Okay, so we're going to the back. We're going back for one reason and one reason only. What's the lesson in the thing? What's the lesson that I can learn here so I can bring it to the present, and now I can focus on where I'm going in the future and take my action today. There is no tomorrow. There's only today. Rocky had it right. There is no tomorrow. Or Apollo Creed, right? Yeah, that's it. There is no tomorrow. It's only today. So when we start thinking about what we learned, write it down. What did I learn from this experience? What did I learn from this thing? Who could benefit from hearing my story of what negative thing happened and what I learned from that thing, so they don't have to experience that same thing? And then the next side of that is really, what are the benefits? And if you remember back in Think and Grow Rich, and Napoleon Hill was talking about, well, if you had a bag of diamonds and your house burned down, what's the first thing you're going to look for? Man, you're digging through the ashes looking for the diamonds. And that's right. We want to take whatever negative experiences we've had and pull the diamonds out. You're going to find an interesting exercise to uncover your core values. If you go back in time, all back to your childhood, I don't know, from age 5 all the way up through your adulthood, and you take your top 10 to 20 positive experiences, and you take your top 10 to 20 negative experiences, and you start looking at the values you learned in each of those circumstances, you're going to find your core values. You're going to find that each of them start to be categorized, and you're going to boil it down, and you're going to come to the conclusion that, wow, these are my core values. That's going to help you, because your core values, if you're aligned with the core values of your company or the core values of the organization you work for, you're going to find that you're going to get along very, very well with the organization. You're also going to find that everywhere that you've really struggled in a business, or anywhere that you've really struggled in a job, it's because your personal values were not aligned with the values of the company or the values of your leadership in the company. Take a look. I dare you. I dare you to go back and do the work and figure out what your core values are, and then look at all the places where you struggled, and you're going to find there was a lack of alignment with the values. So we want to make sure we uncover and explore the benefits, which allows us to do so much more. And then something that is super important when it comes to learning from the past is forgiveness. And there is a process called the Ho'oponopono, which is the Hawaiian forgiveness ritual. And the Hawaiian forgiveness ritual is simply this: taking personal responsibility for what we've done, right? So it's, you know what, I'm really sorry. I am sorry for my part in having caused this. Please forgive me. I love you, and thank you. So when we start looking at where this whole process came from, we don't have that much time tonight, but we'll dig into it in another session where we actually tell the story of where this Ho'oponopono has been used in the past, and the benefits of it. But it is, again, forgiveness ritual because it's a spiritual thing, right? It's spiritual forgiveness. We're forgiving people, and we're helping people move forward. So that's absolutely what we've got to do. So there's an exercise here. The lessons that I learned are what? Sentence completion exercise. The lessons I learned are, the second thing, 100 benefits of this negative thing. What are 100 benefits of having been fired? What are the 100 benefits that you can find in that? The new story that I can tell myself about being fired is what? And the way that the best version of myself is going to handle this situation is what? Which means, what am I going to do about it? My mom's words coming back to ring me upside the head. What are you going to do about it? And then get to work. Get to work doing about it. We're not just deciding, we're doing, right? Decide and do. So when we come down to what's next, right? So we're thinking about, we've got, these are the benefits. These are the next steps. Great. We're going to take those next steps, and we're going to move forward. So when we think about unstoppable confidence, like, what is confidence anyway? It is your belief in your ability to figure things out. Stealing that from my coach, Brendan Burchard, right? It's our belief in our ability to figure it out. Because if we know that it doesn't really matter what happens, we're going to figure out what went wrong. We're going to find a pivot, and we're going to get around it, and we're going to go. Right? There's no such thing as failure until you quit. So don't quit. We're just going to fail our way until we succeed. That's the whole concept. The most successful people in the world, they just fail more often than the rest of us. They just fail all the way to the top. We just need to fail more often and fail forward, right? Whole book about that, failing forward. Great book, by the way. I forget who wrote it, but it was awesome. So I believe. Let's go. Confidence. Got to believe in yourself. So when we think about, part of psychology is also physiology. Here's the thing. Try to pinpoint how I'm feeling based on my body language. Right? Holy cow, how can nobody can feel good when they look like that. Nobody can feel good when their head's down and their shoulders are slumped and they got the frown on their face. Nobody's going to feel good that way. So get out of that posture. Stand up, sit up, jump up and down, move your body, right? So there's a couple things that we've got to do. One, we call them the PMSs. Well, what are the PMSs? Posture, right? Shoulders back, head up, chin up, smile, right? By the way, you get a testosterone boost just by standing like Superman for 2 to 3 minutes. That's right. So we're going to stand here, we're going to put a smile on, we're going to look around with our Superman pose, and we're just going to feel more confident. So if we're struggling, we got to work on the posture first. And then from there, we're going to move into, as we talked about before, we got to move. We got to move the body. So how are we going to move? We're going to jump up and down. Man, we do that all day. Maybe we're going to do some arm circles. Maybe we're going to do some cross, whatever. Move. Air squats. Boom, up and down. Let's get some air squats going. Let's do some push-ups. Let's do some sit-ups. Move your body. Move your body. You will feel significantly differently when you move. Don't stand still, especially if you're struggling. Put a smile on that face. Why? Because the smile lights you up. It lights you up. And it's funny because if you look yourself in the mirror, I don't know, Brian Tracy, if you remember Brian Tracy, he had an old sales tape. It was like, master yourself in selling, whatever it was. An old audio cassette tape. Some of you still know what that is. So I'm listening to this audio cassette tape in my car, and he's like, okay, here's what you got to do. You got to look yourself in the eye, in that rear view mirror. You got to look yourself in the eye and go, I like myself. 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 Say over and over and over again, 2 minutes. You got to do it for 2 minutes straight. He says, I promise you, you'll be you can't help but laugh at yourself. And you're going to be feeling so good when you walk into that sales appointment. So what would happen if we spent more time smiling and looking at ourselves and telling yourself that you like yourself? I love you. I like you. What would happen? What would happen if you spent more time with a smile and a little less time with a frown? You feel better, right? And then another way is we can actually speak with greater fervency, with greater volume and excitement. Like, do you have a favorite quote? Or is there like a favorite book that you love to read out loud that just, it just lights you up? Do it. Pull it out. Speak with your gestures. Speak louder. Project your voice. You are going to feel amazing and help you get out of that funk. Promise you that. And then, of course, we talked about this, the power of neuroplasticity in the brain and the mental patterns that we're creating for ourselves, either intentionally or we're allowing the news cycle to do it. We're allowing the news cycle. We're allowing negative Nancy at work. We're allowing negative Nathan, often, who happens to be a friend or whatever, right? What are we doing? Who are these people? And why are we allowing them to program our brains? Well, why are we not programming theirs with some positivity? It's a big deal. So a couple things to consider. One is, if I play the what if game and I play what if negative, what if when I get out of bed this morning, I get hit by a car? What if my car breaks down? What if I'm in this crazy traffic? Oh my gosh, what if I get shot on my way to work? I can play that game. I play that game all day and I'll never get out of bed. Oh my gosh. But what happens? What we have darkness and disintegration, doubt, worry on a conscious level, fear on the subconscious level, anxiety vibration, which then we suppress the anxiety, turns into depression, turns into disease, and then turns into disintegration. That's Bob Proctor's model, right? So playing what if negative result, we're in trouble, right? That's guaranteed a negative outcome. So what if we played what if on the positive level, like living into the history of your future? So if I'm living in the history of my future, I've already projected this positive outcome and I'm living in that history. I'm living in those feelings, right? That we've already achieved some type of success in this thing. So knowledge, light, knowledge turns to understanding on a conscious level, and then, which is faith on a subconscious level, turns into well-being. We're at ease, allows us to be in creation. Now we've got intelligent direction. And then as we hold that image in our mind, then it's turned over to the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind starts to bring it into form, starts to turn it into the creation, creates anticipation in the fingers, which means we do what? We go to work to get the thing done. We go to work to make this positive outcome happen. So we can either play what if negative and be filled with anxiety and fear and not take any action, or we can infuse ourselves with positivity and projection of faith and belief that we can do this thing as if it's already been done, and then living in the history, the energy of the history of our future. Huge. Faith and fear, polar opposites, but faith and fear are the exact same thing. They're a belief in an unknown future. So how about we start believing something positive about the unknown future instead of something negative about the unknown future? You're lying to yourself already anyway. You may as well tell yourself better lies, right? Why not? Talk to yourself in a more positive way. But David, what happens when I got some of these negative thoughts and negative emotions? They just won't go away. Oh, I thought you'd never ask, right? So what do we got to do? What have we got to do? We've got to recognize. So awareness, the R.A.I.N concept. You can pull this out of Unwinding Anxiety. It's a book called Unwinding Anxiety, and it's a process that's been used by therapists and coaches and people around the world for decades. We've got to recognize the negative thought. Then we're going to acknowledge it. So I recognize the thought of fear, and I recognize it by labeling it. I recognize it and I acknowledge it by labeling it. Oh, I see fear, or I see anxiety, or I see uncertainty. Now, why am I not saying I feel? No, I see it. I'm just labeling it. That's it. I'm labeling it. And now I'm going to investigate it because I know I'm feeling it somewhere in my body. Where am I feeling it? Do I have a headache? Do I have a tight jaw? Or am I feeling it in my shoulders or my neck? Am I feeling it in my chest, or is it in my belly, or is it in my bowels, or where do I feel it? And we're getting curious. What's going on here? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that information, I'm going to pull out my journal, and I'm going to write about it. I'm going to note it down, which is the N side of R.A.I.N. Recognize, acknowledge, investigate, and note it. What this is a great pattern interrupt for that negative thought. It's a great pattern interrupt. I would highly recommend that you use it. Now, what is diffusion? Because sometimes we have those thoughts, even after we've done this pattern interrupt, we've written it down, we've written it out, we've gone through Byron Katie's concept of, oh, well, who am I with the thought? Oh, well, wait a minute. Is that thought even true? Well, maybe it is. Is it really true? Well, I don't know. Maybe not. Well, who am I with the thought? Oh, well, with the thought, I'm weak and depressed and feel the fear. Okay, well, who would you be without the thought? Oh, man, I'd be confident, competent, charismatic. I'd be everything to everybody. I could show my wife more love and spend more time with my children. Okay. So if that's who we can be without the thought, why don't we just get rid of the thought and let's be this, right? So even if none of that works, I'm a failure. Okay, great. There's a thought that I can't get rid of. So now I'm having the thought that I'm a failure, right? I'm having a thought that I'm a failure. And then I'm moving into, I'm going to diffuse it a little bit. So how do we diffuse this thought that I'm a failure, right? So we can label the thought. I'm having the thought that I'm a failure, or I see failure. And then you can use your silly voices. Oh, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. Oh, failure, blah, 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 right? Silly voices. Reminds me of Harry Potter, right? When the Bogarts, where it pops out and they're supposed to turn the scariest thing imaginable into the funniest, stupidest thing you could possibly imagine. That's all you're doing. You're taking it, you're singing it with silly voices, you're singing it to happy birthday, you're just minimizing it. You're making it this small and you're big, right? So the other side of it is you could sing it to the tune of happy birthday. I'm not going to do that here because I'm not that musically inclined. You sure as hell don't want to hear it. Or again, your cartoon voice, or quite frankly, if it's not working, then we can use a visualization process of literally, we're looking at a tree And you notice that these leaves on this tree actually have the words, "Oh, I'm I'm a failure," written on them. And you notice that as the wind picks up, the leaf falls and it picks up, the wind picks up that leaf and it carries it off and dumps it in the river, and the river just carries it away until it disappears. If that doesn't work for you, use a conveyor belt. Write it on a box and watch the conveyor belt take that thought and run away with it. You get the idea. After you've spent a significant, considerable amount of time getting rid of these thoughts, again, it's pattern interrupt. You're getting rid of it, and you are maintaining and bringing back emotional control, right? So another side of these things is actual emotional control. Period. You know how sometimes you'll walk in the door and somebody will just pounce on you because they're upset that you're late. They're upset that there wasn't as much communication as they wanted, and they're just all up in your grill. Well, that's kind of crazy, right? What would happen if we, instead of jumping on people, we took a curious approach, a find out approach, a wait and see approach? What if we actually asked the question, is everything okay? You know, is there something you want to tell me about? Is there something you'd like to share? Is that accusatory? No. What it's doing is showing some emotional restraint and emotional control, right? So anyways, some of these things, let's skip over that. We already talked about that stuff. But if you think about your reticular activating system, your RAS, right? For those of you who don't know what the RAS is, reticular activating system, all it is you telling your brain what's important to you. You're telling your brain what to search for. The brain deletes, distorts 98% of all the sensory, everything that comes into it. The brain, gone, deletes it, gets rid of it. It notices what you tell it to notice. When was the last time you bought a car? Before you bought that car, you may not have seen that car very, very often. But after you bought it, you saw that freaking car everywhere. And the reason you saw it everywhere is you told your brain it was important when you spent 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 grand on your car. Now you see that car everywhere because you told your brain it was important. So as you program your brain what to look for, that, hey, this is where we're going. These are the types of relationships that we've got to be in order to get there. This is the kind of growth that has to take place in order for me to experience the things I want to experience in my life. Your reticular activating system is like a homing beacon, and it starts trying to make that happen. The RAS is very, very important. And that brings us to focus, right? Because when it comes to what we focus on, sometimes the brain is like, well, you know what, David? I don't care what you want to focus on. I'm going to make you think about this. And you're like, no, I don't want to talk about that right now. I want you to go solve this problem. You're directing your mind. Your mind is not directing you. You're in control. Your mind is not in control. Take control of your mind. Stop. Stop. We are not talking about that right now. I expect you to go figure out how to solve this problem. You direct your mind. Again, this is a Bob Proctorism, and it's worked for him for decades. And I have to tell you, it's one of my favorites to stop that brain from going in directions I don't want it to go. It works great. If you've never used it, I highly recommend it. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun to tell yourself, shut up. And mean it. Another one is environment. So often, if we can surround ourselves with positive things, positive quotes, I've got all kinds of crazy stuff on my walls, but decide, commit, resolve, right? My core values are up over here. Spiritual connection, love, continuous improvement, impact, leadership, and adventure. What are yours? I've got my vision or my purpose statement on the wall. The purpose of my life is to be fully present, competent, confident, and spiritually connected, to listen, to learn, to speak, to inspire, to unlock the best of who you are, so that disrespectful leaders dissipate, broken communication is healed, people thrive, missions are achieved, and where people say, I am at peace. What is in your environment? I've got the flag behind me. I've got George Washington up above me. I've got the flag behind me to remind me that you know what, freedom isn't free. And it's part of my responsibility to teach people to think for themselves so that we're not programmed by everybody around us, but we're programming ourselves. And George Washington, a great price was paid, as well as a great faith was exercised in the creation of the United States of America. I'm proud to be an American. I love my country. And you know what? It's represented in what's around me. So, what do you surround yourself with? What does your environment look like? The next piece of that comes down to the breaking news. Turn that stuff off. When was the last time you heard or saw something positive that made you feel like you wanted to go conquer the world on the news or on talk radio? It doesn't happen. And I get it. You know, we want to stay informed. I understand that. But do we really want to stay informed to the tune of 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and 6 and 10 hours a day? Stop. Just stop. You know, get your 10-minute fix and move on. But it never turns into just 10 minutes, does it? So just turn it off and start creating instead of consuming. You'll find that your inner peace will be completely different. So what fills your space? Again, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Okay, well, that's not my quote, but it's in a PowerPoint that I got for you, right? But what do you fill your space with? What do you study? Who are the people that are in your sphere? Right? You know, I work out with a group called F3, right? F3 group. And we work out every morning, 6 days a week. We have a leadership group that meets every Saturday. And we just faith, fitness, and fellowship. So we work out. We have a circle of trust where we just talk about spiritual things usually. And then, you know, we pray and we're out the door. But we do fellowship with each other. And we support each other. It's a great organization. And if you're not familiar with it and you're a man and you want a place to work out, hit me up and I'll help you find the nearest location where you can show up and work out with us. So sometimes what keeps us on track is if we have a clear mission, a clear vision, a battle board, if you will, and a calendar. What is it? So ultimately, if you know where you're going, then we can help you get there. If you don't know where you're going, then we've got to have some conversations to figure out where you want to go. What experiences do you actually want to have in your life? And then how do I have to grow in order to have those experiences? And then when I leave my legacy, what do I want that legacy to look like? What do I want to leave behind? When I've done all these things and I've grown all this way, and now it's time to give back. Well, how am I going to give back? What does that look like? What does it feel like? And where is this located on my calendar? So I know that I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. I am writing every morning at 4 a.m., 4 to 5. It's just 1 hour, but that's the first hour of the day I write. Then I go work out. I come back. I start the rest of my day. But that 1 hour gets done every day. Why? Because it's the most important thing I could do that's going to continue to build my future, right? Because it's one of the things that I have to experience because it's on my experience list. And it's one of the things that also moves the needle in I have to learn how to write. So I have to so I'm learning and growing that muscle. And then so that I can leave as a legacy, if you will, all the lessons I learned in leadership through the book, through training videos like this, passing it on, right? And where is it on my calendar? It's on my calendar every morning at 4 o'clock. It's on my morning at 4. It's on my calendar at 4 o'clock Saturday morning, and it's on my calendar Sunday morning at 4 o'clock, and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and Friday. The concept here is put it on your calendar, and you'll get it done. Okay, let's talk about relationships real quick. The relationships in your life are either giving you energy or they are sucking the life out of you. If you're in relationships or you have people around you that are sucking life away from you, back away. Now I get it. None of us gets to choose who our family is. But if you have negative family members, maybe they get a conversation every other month and not 2 hours every day, right? But if you've got that super positive one that you love to talk to and it just really feeds you with energy, great. Maybe it's every day then. Maybe it's 10 minutes a day. Maybe it's an hour. I don't know. They're your relationships. But if they are draining you, we've got to get more positive people into your life. And that is built intentionally. And again, that comes back to your RAS. Are you telling your brain it's important to look for people who are positive, who match your core values, who can help lift you through this process? And if that's on your goals list, then you're going to start finding and looking for those types of people to intentionally bring into your inner circle. But if they're draining your energy and knocking you out every day, man, I'm just telling you, stop, back off, move away. And I don't mean move, but get out of get out of their proximity, because they're killing you. They're sucking you dry. So another one is positive triggers. Can you set some positive triggers up for yourself? And so, like my mentor, he uses door frames as a positive trigger. So I've, of course, started doing that as well. But it's, what does each door frame mean to you? So when you walk into a room of strangers that you don't know, what did you tell yourself as you walked through, entering that room? Did you walk in going, man, I hope I meet that person that can fulfill my my sales quota this month? Or did you walk in the room and you're like, how can I heal what's broken in this room? How can I help each person in this room network with each other? How can I lift? How can I inspire? How can I grow? What is it? Maybe what is it that when you come home from work and your family's waiting for you at the door, what does that door frame mean to you? Brandon says, here enters a happy man ready to serve. All right, when he enters a room. But when he enters his door frame at home, he's like, what I tell myself, there's none of your damn business. That's personal. Right? Everybody has their own, but what are your positive triggers? One that I love is this pen, right? I've done my best to associate the clicking of the pen with, I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. I love myself. Why? It's a subconscious thing, but how many times am I hitting that pen every day with the understanding that, man, I do love myself. Okay. So positive triggers can be just as effective as your negative triggers that are causing you to spiral backwards and treat everybody like garbage. So use a positive trigger instead of the negative ones. So remember, we've got physiology first, we've got psychology, we've got your environment, we've got relationships, and we have your triggers. And by the way, if you find yourself being easily taken into a negative state, check your sleep too. Because if you're not sleeping 8 hours a day, that can have an awful lot to do with it. So ensure that you're getting proper sleep as well. So what I would have you do is, when we think about recapping what we're talking about here, is physiology, posture, move, smile, speak, your PMSs, right? And then R.A.I.N, recognize, acknowledge, investigate, note it, diffuse it. And then emotion, meaning, feeling, and action. And then we're focusing, the RAS. Hey, I don't want to talk about this. I want you to go solve that problem right there. Environment, cut off the news. What goes through you sticks to you. So be freaking careful what goes through you. Relationships, assess them, limit the negatives, eliminate the negatives, and curate the positives. Competence, continuous learning and skilling up, and belief in yourself. Remembering that confidence is a belief in your ability to figure things out. And then why? What's your mission? What's your vision? What's your battle board? And where is it on your calendar? Because if you said family was important to you, where are they on your calendar? If you said business was important to you, where is it on your calendar? If you said X number of sales by the end of the month, where are all of those appointments that are going to have to take place? Where are they on your calendar? Where's your work? Where's the work at? So the last thing I'll tell you is create a get out of a funk card. So when we think about getting out of a funk card, you're just going to grab a card like this, and you're going to, for physiology, what am I going to do to get out of a funk with my physiology? How am I going to move my body? Okay, so based on what David was talking about here with psychology, how am I going to think differently? Well, what will I need to focus on if I want to get out of a funk? Ooh, what does my environment need to be? Do I need to get up and go outside? Do I need to go for a hike? Do I need to go for a walk? Do I need to dive myself in an ice cold river? What does my environment need to look like and feel like? oh, who do I need to be around right now to pull me out of this negative state that I'm in? And necessity. Um, who needs me on my A game? Like, like who do I need to be on my A game for right now? Because if I need to be on my A game for them right now, let's go. Let's get on our A game and let's make it happen. But the concept here is sometimes because we get in such a negative funk and we can get so depressed that without that card, sometimes we forget what the first step is. And when it comes to physiology, maybe you're putting on your favorite songs. Maybe you're hitting play on your favorite playlist to get you up and get your body moving, to get you in the right physiology, to get your body in the right state so that we can now start making better decisions with our psychology. I hope this was helpful. And if you want a copy of this presentation, just hit me back in the DMs, and I will send you. I'll send you the slide deck. How about that? I know because those of you watching on Facebook, you didn't see a slide deck. You just kind of saw me talking here. But happy to send you the slide deck if you feel it would be helpful in your emotional regulation. All right, appreciate you guys, and we will talk to you again on the next one. Happy Thursday.